Ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, welcome back, and today we are going to be putting a little bit more air into the engine and a little bit of dress up to the engine bay. And we're going to be doing this by installing an HSP cold air intake for a LBZ and LMM Duramax, or a 2006 to a 2010 Duramax. So the reason I'm going with the HSP cold air intake is because I wanted something that was aluminum, and they have mandrel bent aluminum tubes, and plus I wanted the powder coating option. Because you know, S&B makes their own cold air intakes, K&N, Air Raid, you know, some of them popular brands. But then you have companies like HSP Diesel and SDP that make aluminum intakes that they actually powder coat. So that is what I went with here. So the color is known as Candy Blue, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It has just this beautiful shine to it. The HSP is actually riveted on the back. It's another plate. It's a very nice added touch. So the cold air intake right here is one unit as you buy it from their website. This is actually the BGT style turbo inlet. So if you have a stock turbocharger or something that's a drop-in replacement, such as a Fleece Cheetah or some other type of Garrett turbo, this elbow will actually fit to the cold air intake and bolt right up with the stock clamp to the turbocharger. This will get rid of the plug where your resonator and where the PCV system comes back into your intake, and plus it gives it a more smooth on the inside. That way air can flow a little bit better, instead of that plastic that has all them sharp turns and cuts and everything inside of it. So this is supposed to be a really big power gain here, really supposed to help the airflow. And the system itself is 4 inches, the tubing is, and it actually just uses an S&B filter, which I like because they have that little conical end on them, which is a very neat thing to look at, although you really won't be able to see it because of the lid that goes on top of the intake box. I actually already have a cold air intake on my truck. I have the K&N cold air intake, so it works. I mean, it does flow a lot of air, but I'm actually missing components. There's supposed to be the shield right here. It doesn't fit in there quite right. You know, I'm missing a bolt right here that holds it to keep it from shaking. I just have the one on the one side. When I bought the truck, this cold air intake came on it. I didn't really worry about it because I knew eventually I would get one like this HSP one that is powder coated to match everything else inside the engine bay. And the reason I went with blue is obviously I have all the other blues. I have some wire loom here over some components that are blue to dress it up a little bit. I have my sensor diesel, PCV reroute, and then of course I have my powder coated, actually it's not powder coated, this is actually spray painted intake elbow here. And this is actually your cold side of your intercooler pipes. This is just the stock one with an intake heater delete. I am going to be purchasing the HSP hot side intercooler pipe, which is this one here. This is currently the factory one. And the cold side pipe with the high flow Y bridge. Those would be 3 inches. That way it'll get rid of all this weird bending. It'll be more smooth. It'll have a higher flow Y bridge down in here. And plus this will be 3 inches, so it'll flow a little bit more than the stock one will. And plus it'll get rid of that weird coupler that's down there at the bottom that kind of flares out, and just make it a solid straight coupler. So one of the main differences between this set, or the K&N cold air intake, and the HSP cold air intake is obviously powder coated, but it also comes with the HSP coupler that says HSP Diesel on it, right there. Very nicely, and these very nice clamps that are way better than just your traditional style corkscrew clamps. So that'll be a very nice addition, and it also gets rid of that hump coupler right here that's on the factory system. Kind of looks out of place almost. And it also comes with its own little machine screws for your mass airflow sensor here. So that way it kind of gives it a little bit of a nice look. It's very easy to take off the intake on a Duramax, and actually we're going to be doing that now. So we're going to take off the K&N one, lay it on the floor here, and compare it to the HSP one. So this is the K&N filter. You can see right here, this just has a 5/16 hose clamp on it. What I do is I like to get it loose to where you actually have some slack in it, and you can also spin the clamp around and then it'll just slide off. You will notice that actually the filter and the tube on the K&N is bigger than the one from HSP Performance. So this is the K&N filter, it's quite large, and this is the one on the HSP one. So this is like a 4-inch intake. My guess would be this is about a 6-inch intake, so it is quite a big difference. So we're going to see the only difference really in the filters other than size is this one is a little bit taller, and then it actually has the conical filtration on the end. Now, since this one is taller than this one, I hope it fits better because this one here fits kind of tight anyway. So hopefully this one here doesn't hit. So maybe the intake system is offset a little bit here, but we'll find out when we go to install it. If you have a K&N cold air intake, you'll know there's 2 screws right here that hold it in, go through those holes into the tube. I only had the one on that side, so I only had to take out one of them. The clamp that goes up here, the hump clamp, that says 5/16 socket will fit on these. Once again, just do them where they're loose and you can slide them and everything should slide right off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug the mass airflow sensor from the wire from the sensor, and I'm just going to lay that back here. And then what's going to happen is I'm actually going to just take the sensor out of the K&N tube and just put it over onto the HSP one before I stick it back inside the truck. And then down in here, this clamp is actually a 5/16 as well. So it's very easy to take this thing apart. Okay, so this is what the clamp looks like that goes in from the elbow piece, the elbow, into the mouth of the turbocharger. You can see there's a lip on the turbocharger right there, and then of course there's a lip onto the intake piece. This is a 5/16 clamp as well. So you just unscrew it until actually this one here sits over onto the intake elbow. And as you can see, it pops loose once you do that. Slide away. So then the intake piece will just slide right out of there with the clamp on it, just like so. Very good. Set that right there. And then this is my turbocharger. I'd have a fleece 63mm cheater on it, and the fleece has a bunch of beautiful little accents on the turbocharger. Spins quite nicely. Look at the little F's on it. I don't know if you can see if the camera will focus in. Here they see the little F's on the turbocharger. This is 63mm. The reason I went with that is because the truck is a manual. This is a ZF6 truck, and I didn't want something that would spool very slowly. That way the truck wouldn't be extremely smoky, but I still wanted something a little bit bigger than stock, and the 63mm was perfect. So if you have a stock turbo in your truck, or if you have recently done an intake or a turbo modification, the best thing to do would be to actually look under your turbocharger while you have this thing apart, because you have coolant lines like this one right here, this one with this 90-degree coolant line on it, and you also have oil feed lines, so check and see they're not leaking. And I do know when we went to go hook this one up, we spilled a little bit of oil trying to pour it down into the turbo, so that's actually what that's from. The truck is not leaking. I've had this turbo on here now for about 2,000 miles, so it's a good time for checkup and just to look on it. And as you can see, I have the PCV system blocked off to my turbo, and the turbo wheel looks just like the day I put it on there. It looks gorgeous. That's a good example of why it's good to delete your PCV system. If you guys actually look, I posted a video about installing this to show you. Okay, so we have the complete cold air intake systems laid out side by side, starting from the intake box to the filters, intake tubes, couplers, down to the VGT style turbo inlet. So what we're going to do is start over here and take a look. The K&N cold air intake was actually only held on by one bolt at the bottom. Remember, I bought this truck with this intake on it. I did not put it on. And that's actually very surprising from K&N. Usually they have some pretty nice quality stuff, but that would explain why the cold air intake would constantly shake. It would constantly shake. And, you know, it was bolted to the intake piece, which is in turn bolted, you know, to the turbo. And I believe that's what made the intake shake so much. The intake would shake and you'd always hear it rattle and hit against my coolant box right here. You can see where it's black, where it's been rubbing against it, and you can also see on the back of the intake box where it's doing it. You know, and it would drive you nuts. You just sit there and idle and it would just shake. Well, this one here actually has 3 bolt holes to actually line up with the bottom of the tray, so that way you can have a little bit more stability here, keep it from moving. And yes, this is supposed to have a shield over top of it. This is the shield that goes on top of this one, and like I said before, I did not buy this cold air intake, so I don't know what happened to the shield. I don't know why the guy took it off, maybe to fit a bigger filter, I do not know. But the tube does not bolt up to this one. It just sits inside this insulated piece, and that's actually going to be quite nice because it might just sit in there, it's firm and snug, and if it happens to shake, in turn it won't shake this quite as bad because it does have a little bit of buffer room to make it to where it doesn't want to move the whole box. So in turn, the filters are 2 very different style filters. So this is the one that comes with the HSP one. It is a taller filter, has a conical end in it, a little piece of chrome, you know, has the same style band on it as the K&N one does. But this is only a 4-inch filter, and this one's actually a 6-inch filter. Band fell off. But this is actually a 6-inch filter. It is massive. Although it is shorter, it's a lot stubbier. And I don't know if this filter was supposed to come on this. Maybe that's why the guy took the shield off the top so he could fit a size bigger filter on it. That might be the reason why that top shield is gone. So, the intake tubes, they are similar in design, obviously same bend, same spot, mass airflow sensor, but like we mentioned earlier with the box, this intake tube bolts directly to the box, whereas this one just sits inside of it. So maybe that'll take a little bit of vibration out of the intake. Over here, the couplers, so this is actually your stock coupler if you have a stock intake, or a lot of times if you just put K&N, S&B, Air Raid, something like that, this is the coupler you use. It's the hump coupler that's stock. The SHP one actually has HSP silk screened on it. It's quite nicely, has a different style of clamp, made to handle a little bit more boost pressure, plus it'll address at the engine bay, make it look a little bit nicer. And over here, this is supposed to be the big difference in power changer. It is the VGT style intake, so this is the stock one. I have a turbo resonator delete plug, and then I have a PCV reroute plug in this one. And those holes actually create turbulence down in there as they turn. And then this VGT one right here, powder coated smooth the whole way, and it actually has a little gasket right there that comes already in, a little rubber gasket. Keeps seal a little bit better, making that leak quite as bad. And then of course for this one you just use the stock style band. Is very similar to an exhaust band clamp. That's why it's made for grooves, because of course this is grooved and then the turbo is grooved, so that's how it fits on there. Alright, let's get this intake in here and let's see the difference. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys what the cold air intake looked like before I actually put the shield on it. So the filter goes down in there, and it is an extremely tight fit. I'm talking I can stick my fingers between that and the fender liner, and that is about it. I mean, it is like to the T. You might be able to get this back here. The filter was actually extremely tough to get down in there. You had to put it kind of sideways and roll the lip around, and then finally it would pop on the intake tube. Like I said, fitment was a little tight. Other than that, though, you know, not bad at all the way it looks. You know, this right here, I just can't wait to get the shield on here to see how well that clears it up. Because see, when you put the shield on here, you won't be able to see this. So I want to show you guys what it looked like without the filter on there. Okay, guys, so the cold air intake is finally in the truck. And I will honestly say, it is a lot easier taking that K&N out with what it was putting this one in. The quality of material on this cold air intake is ungodly awesome. It is mandrel bent aluminum. It is powder coated. Everything lines up straight. As you can see, straight here. Coming out of the turbo, it is tight. It's gorgeous. Everything looks really good. But the fitment is a little off. Right here, this rubs, and I really don't like that because that is a sharp corner that can cut that coupler. You know, it's probably already cutting it now, and I haven't even started the truck yet. You know, I don't like that. that is doing that. Now I understand that this system's probably made to go with this tube, the cold side tube that comes over. It's a circle, you know, perfectly cylindrical like this. It's not square, and it probably fits better, but still, you know, on a stock system, you figure they'd give enough room, but, you know, it rubs against it. And I'll drive for a little ways. If I think it's going to cut this, I might actually pull this off and just cut this little knob off. But, you know, I'm surprised it doesn't fit better than that. The filter, it's tough to get in there. It is extremely tough to get in there. I probably struggled for 5 minutes just trying to slide the filter on. And yes, the K&N was a bit of a struggle, but it took me maybe 30 seconds just to slide it down in there. This one's a lot taller than the K&N. Even though the K&N's wider, this one's taller. I had to almost completely bend the coupling section back here. It goes on there to get it to slide on. These top screws, these 2 screws lined up for the shield on top. But this one right here, I had to like push it that way, and even then it didn't want to go. So when I pull this thing off next time, I might drill this hole just a little bit bigger and maybe make it line up better. I mean, material-wise, this thing's 10 out of 10. It's made of good material. Alignment-wise, 10 out of 10. Everything lines up straight. But the fitment is probably like only a 6 out of 10. Because I had trouble with this screw. Really a lot of trouble with this screw. As a matter of fact, I had so much trouble trying to get everything lined up where it wouldn't touch anything, that when I dropped this screw back here and it slid down between my coolant reservoir and this, I was regretting taking this whole thing back apart. Because I knew I had to take this filter off. This was the biggest pain right here, was this filter. And this was the biggest surprise. But it does fit without touching. So that doesn't worry me. Except for when I go to take it off. But this right here, this worries me. So I'm going to have to do something about it. Now I know a lot of you guys are out there like, maybe, you know, it ain't that big of a deal. Just buy this cold air tube, or the cold air intercooler tube. Well, yes, I understand that. But that's more money you got to spend, you know, when I could have just done that. I mean, so overall, I'd probably give it like maybe an 8 out of 10 for quality, you know, which is pretty high still. I mean, it's a good, it's sturdy. I mean, look, it is solid. It is in there. You know, it ain't going nowhere. If the fitment down here is perfect and everything, but like you said, a couple little spots, but you know, when you start getting the performance stuff, nothing is 100% fit. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned something from this. Maybe you want to get your own HSP cold air intake. Maybe you're looking at some other brand. If you like more videos, like to see more videos like this one, please like and subscribe. If you wish to ask me a personal question or just have a comment or like to share your build, you can message me privately at southernsilveradomail@gmail.com. And thank you guys very much.